Alright, so this is different from the usual content that I put up on this channel. I'm just gonna jump right into it because I can. Welcome to my Games Reflections 2018 video. Now, this requires a little backstory, not much. So I don't usually get to play a lot of the games that come out the year that they're released. However, I wanted to go over some of the games that I've played this year, do little mini reviews of them. And they're going to be mini reviews because a lot of the games on this list are games that I either eventually want to have on the channel in some form or that have already been covered on the channel. And I have a couple ground rules for these games on this list. First one is that the games that are on this list are games that I have beaten for the first time this year, and I'm going to be rating them on a scale of 1 to 10 out of 10. So, let's jump in. So, Yoshi's Woolly World it's a great game. So, it starts off with Kamek going to the Yoshi Island, the Wool Yoshi Island, and then turning all the Wool Yoshis into wool bunches and kidnapping them for unknown reasons. Oh, mysterious. So yeah, he kidnaps all the Yoshis, and you have to go around and collect these wool bunches to reform these super adorable Yoshis back into their adorable, cute forms. And not only is it just super creative and adorable, it's just fun to play in general. And all of the Yoshis are super cute, super adorable, and it has one of the cutest uses of amiibos I have ever seen, in that you scan your amiibos into the game and it creates these amiibo Yoshis that are just super cute to play as. And then you have these super adorable forms that you turn into, like a mermaid or, say, an airplane that you shoot torpedoes at your enemies that are flying by, and a motorcycle that you just ram yourself into the enemies with your body. And this game is just so good, so fun, so adorable. It's just good all around. I love it. So, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. You may be saying, wait, you love it so much. Why an 8 out of 10? Well, the thing is, it's not as good as some of the other games on this list. That's one of the only reasons. I do have other reasons why this isn't, like, top tier. But if you want to know these reasons, you will probably have to go watch the LP. I do go into those reasons in the blind LP that I did at the end of last year and beginning of this year. So, go watch it, maybe? So, this next game is another game that I started in 2017, but I ended up finishing in 2018, so it belongs on this list. Xenoblade Chronicles for the Nintendo Wii. I love this game. It's so incredible in so many different ways. Whether you're talking about the expansive world building, the story, the characters, the battle mechanics, it's all so amazing. I've played all of the Xenoblade games and enjoyed all my time playing them. I will warn you that, as this is a JRPG, this game is quite long, especially if you go for 100%, or anywhere close to it. I could ramble all day about how much I love these games, but I'll try to refrain from gushing about them for the whole video. 9.5 out of 10. This game is definitely one I can recommend to anyone who loves JRPGs. With all of its twists and turns, its expansive world, the lovable characters, it is an absolutely fantastic game. I need to preface this next game by saying that I did enjoy this game, but it was advertised to me as a Metroidvania. It is not a Metroidvania. Owlboy. Or as I like to call it, Everybody Bullies Otis. You play as this Owlboy. Gee, you don't say, named Otis, as he goes through this world trying to fix these things that's happened as he was supposed to be guarding this cave. Along the way, he is constantly being put down, made fun of, and or being yelled at. Now, I'm not exactly sure what to classify this game under other than action-adventure. Because you fly from the beginning, so it's not a platformer. It's not a Metroidvania, as people like to say it is. It has a bit of puzzle, but it's not strictly a puzzle game. Whatever it is, it's a nice game. It has beautiful music, a sad story, and scenery that's pleasing to look at. All that being said, the fact that every area, every place in this game is a point of no return sucked. It meant I couldn't go back to previous areas with upgrades I got later on, get things I missed earlier on, talk to people I didn't get to talk to the first time, etc., etc. That whole bit really soured the game for me because I was told this was a Metroidvania, a genre of game which I love. I'm giving this game a 7.7. Like I said before, the music's pretty, I like the scenery, and the story was pretty good. But missable stuff in the game like this really grinds my gears. Also, that ending felt a little underwhelming in my opinion. This next game is a remake of a game that came out on the Genesis in 1990. Castle of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse. I played this on Steam. It's a real short game, being able to be beaten within a couple hours. Less so if you're real good at the game and don't go for 100%. Mickey and Minnie are enjoying a nice date when, oh no, Minnie's kidnapped by the evil witch Miserable, who bears a striking resemblance to the evil queen from Snow White. You platform through the castle, throw apples at enemies like in Aladdin on the SNES. The levels are really creative, the platforming is fun, and the enemy and boss design is super cartoony, which is very Disney. This gets a flat rating of 8 out of 10 from me. I really liked this game, but it was super short. They did a really good job of translating this game to modern gaming while making it cartoony and classic Disney. But I remember a couple bosses and a few of the endgame levels being a bit annoying. All in all, though, it's a good short game. After finishing Castle of Illusion, I was on a bit of a kick of finishing shorter games that I'd been meaning to finish for a while. Mega Man 1 being one of those games. While I really like Mega Man, I hadn't actually finished the first one until this year. What can I say about this game other than it's the first one? It's the one that started the whole Mega Man series. It's short, it's fun, and it's simple. 6 Robot Masters, 10 levels in all. I gave most of my thoughts on this one earlier this year during the LP, so I'd suggest going and watching that one if you want my full opinions. Rating 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, it's short and fun. It also has replayability in trying to find new ways to finish the stages and the bosses. But something else it has is first game syndrome, where it was really early in gaming. They hadn't quite gotten the hang of how to make games yet. Also, Yellow Devil is a huge pain to figure out his pattern. The Legend of Zelda. I've played many games in the series, but the first one I had never beaten until earlier this year. I've attempted to finish this game many times over the years, but after beating Mega Man, I finally decided to take a full afternoon and actually focus on this game and beat it. Just like Mega Man 1, it has serious first game syndrome. But also like Mega Man, it started not only a whole slew of games in its own series, but it also revolutionized a whole genre of gaming, adventure games. I'm just gonna keep this short and simple. 7 out of 10. It may not have been the best with some of its jerk enemies or somewhat dubious dungeon design, but it was the first. And it inspired many great and amazing games for years to come. It is an important game. Mirror's Edge is a cool game. I think we can agree on that. It's a first-person parkour game that's all about precise movement and continuing your momentum. It's set in a dystopian future where the government is very totalitarian and in control of everything. You're trying to find out who framed your sister for murder, all the while trying to evade government surveillance and capture. The parkour is very fluid and just fun in general. As for the combat, it's very satisfying. The problem is getting both to work consistently. Throughout my playthrough of the game, I constantly missed jumps that I thought I should have made, got shot by shots I didn't think should have hit me, stuff like that. Part of it is the fact that it demands exact precision, and the other part was that I was using a controller. The game lets you use a controller and even has on-screen prompts for buttons, so it makes sense that you should be able to play with the controller no problem, right? Wrong. 7.9 out of 10. This game's fun, but it demands such precise movement that keyboard and mouse are almost a requirement. I just don't like playing games with a keyboard. That's just a me problem though. And the end of the game felt like it dragged on a bit longer than it felt like it should have. I don't know. I wouldn't call myself a quote-unquote Sonic fan, but I have enjoyed some of the few that I've played. Sonic Adventure 2 being one of the lowest tiered games that I've played in the series, along with Sonic and the Secret Rings. The camera has aged awfully, the controls can be stiff at times, and the non-Sonic / Shadow stages are unnecessarily slow in a game series that's about going fast. But hey, at least this game has music like City Escape and Pumpkin Hill. And also the Chow Garden. Who can hate raising those adorable little guys? 6 out of 10. The non-speedy stages are just so slow. Just look at this. You can say this nostalgia and your childhood all you like, but it does not change the fact that this game has not aged well. Or that the non-speed stages are just very sluggish. It doesn't even have a fun overworld like in Sonic Adventure 1. Like, that was... I really like that overworld, okay? Okay.
Barely made it.
Moving on. Super Mario Bros. 3 is a classic fun game. It pains me to say that I never really got around to playing it much until this year. But now that I have, I can say this with certainty. It's definitely very high up on the list of best 2D Mario games. It's a treat to play with its fun and unique worlds and levels. I'd like to play this more in the future so I can get better at the game, because to be honest, I died. Like a lot. Best part, not a lot of deaths felt like they were the game's fault. Some did, but not very many. 8.5 out of 10. Being one of the best NES games I've played, this shouldn't be a surprise that it's rated so high. I don't really have a lot else to say other than that about the game because, well, it's Super Mario Bros. 3. Everyone knows and loves it. I'm always grateful for sequels to games that I like, that are not only as good as the original, but especially if they improve on things I liked about the first game. Mega Man 2 is great. This time there are 8 Robot Masters, setting the new standard for future Mega Man games. The stages are improved and so are the bosses. Because of the boss weaknesses, there's a ridiculous amount of different boss orders you could do, adding replay onto the game, figuring out what different ways you could take on the stages or the bosses. This game has also been featured on the channel, so consider checking that LP out. 8.5 out of 10 for this game as well. Mega Man 2 does a lot of cool stuff, and it's hard to beat a good classic game. Remember what I said about really appreciating sequels that improve on what the original does? Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is another example of doing that. I loved the first game, and I could go on all day about how much I love this game. Gripping story, really great characters, a battle system that makes you think, an incredible world that draws you in. Not only all that, but I love a lot of the character designs. There are a lot of silly moments, and the soundtrack is spectacular. I was legit mad that this game wasn't nominated for Best Soundtrack. Seriously, Game Awards, why wasn't this nominated for that? All that being said, there are problems, just not a lot of them. The gacha system for partners you get is garbage if you want to get them all. And I suppose if you don't like anime styling and tropes, that might be a turnoff because there's a lot of that. And fan service, there's that too. But all in all, definitely one of my favorite games I've played this year. Or in the past few years too. Really. 9.7 out of 10. I love this game. It does do things differently than Xenoblade 1, but I feel like the things that it does do differently make it better. But only slightly. I love this game so much, I actually started a New Game Plus playthrough a little while ago. Normally I hate New Game Plus, but this game has so much going for it, it was hard to turn a second playthrough down. Especially with a prospect of having new stuff in the game. The Gunman Clive games are a neat couple of little games. Emphasis on little. I finished both of them within a few hours on stream earlier this year. They're short western shooters that are pretty straightforward. Until you get to aliens. Yeah, they're silly games, but they felt pretty good to play, even if there were some cheap jumps sometimes. And I liked the silliness that they had. I'm lumping them both together because they came in a package deal as the HD collection on the Wii U. But they are separate games. They're less than $3 each on Steam, so I suggest picking them up if you like short 2D run-and-gun games. 7 out of 10. While I did enjoy the games, they didn't do anything really that revolutionary, and some of the levels in 2 didn't really stand out. Though I did like riding on a panda. That was fun. This year, I've played more games that have been hailed as no less than incredible than any other year thus far. Final Fantasy VI, originally called Final Fantasy III in America, being one such game. The story of how Terra and her large group of friends saved the world from Kefka's evil reign is one that should be told. I love RPGs. That should already be seen by how much I've praised Xenoblade in this video. This game has so much going for it, between the massive amount of choice in characters to play as, the thrilling story as Kefka ruins the world, the fun combat, everything in this game makes it a fun experience. I don't see how I skipped over this game for so long, it just blows my mind. 9 out of 10! I had a great time playing through this game, and it's probably my favorite Final Fantasy game now. It deserves to be met with such high praise because it's a great game. While I played the main game last year, the DLC for this game came out as a new mode this year. Shantae, Half Genie Hero, Costume Mode. This DLC is something. This game's DLC has you play through the same levels as you do in the main game, but with different twists. The Costume Mode DLC comes in the form of 3 different modes: Ninja Mode, Beach Mode, and Officer Mode. In Officer Mode, you have the mechanics of Mighty Switch Force, another game WayForward made, where you're switching blocks from the foreground to the background and vice versa to get around the level. In Ninja Mode, I'm just gonna say it's Ninja Gaiden mechanics, because that's pretty much what it is. You're playing as a ninja, clinging to walls, throwing shurikens, using your katana. Yeah, Ninja Gaiden. And in Beach Mode, you're collecting the suntan lotion or jumping in the water to avoid getting sunburned. If you stay in the sun too long without doing either, you get damaged. 7.5 out of 10. Now, I like these modes, as I enjoyed the main game, but the fact that they recycled the stages from the main game rubbed me the wrong way. Also, I dislike that getting hit makes you lose gems. Now, gems make your weapons stronger, and if you have less powerful weapons, it's harder to defend yourself from getting hit, so you lose less gems. Now, I like this mode, but that little tidbit kinda ruined it. Mega Man 3. If there's a game on this list that monumentally disappointed me, it's this game. After Mega Man 2, I went into this game with an optimistic view and came out confused about what went wrong. Some of the stages in this had very cheap jumps you have to make, among other rude design choices. The boss designs are pretty uninspired in my opinion, and Doc Robot is a piece of trash. They padded out the game by replaying these 4 stages to fight that jerk Doc Robot, which is dumb. I dislike this heavily, especially because they do a very rude thing in Needleman's stage repeat. Also, I dislike Doc Robot for other reasons, which I won't go into here. 7 out of 10. While all of this has been a fairly negative review, this game does introduce some good mainstays into the series. Proto Man's introduction into the series, Rush's introduction into the series, and this is the first game with Mega Man's trademark Sly. This game, like I said, it disappointed me, but it's not a bad game in general. Life is Strange. Yes, indeed it is. It's also an emotional roller coaster, just like this game. Not only is the story incredible, but the mechanics are pretty solid too. Despite being basically a point-and-click adventure game, you control time in order to solve puzzles so you can experience more of the story. If you're going into this expecting exciting and riveting gameplay, you're looking for the wrong game. The whole point of this game is the story, and it definitely delivers there. If you play this game though, be prepared to jump aboard the feels train. There's a lot of that in this game. Because this is a story-based game, I'm not going to talk about the story much. 9 out of 10. Go play this game. It's on Steam. Just do it. It's real feelsy and it's real good. Just like real life. It'll do too. In short, it's a Zelda parody. But it's also a pretty good puzzle game in its own right. Like I mentioned, it's a Zelda parody. So it's gonna have dialogue and such that's poking fun at the series in general. It also has unique exploration items and some nice dungeons. But some of the collectibles can be frustrating to find because of how vague some hints are. Said collectibles are used to fight the true final boss, which is hard as balls to fight, although it's not required to beat the game. On the topic of side content, It'll Do 2 Plus has some additional content with some insane puzzles for true puzzle aficionados. 7.9 out of 10. I really like that you can take on the dungeons in any order you want, and the enemy design is really cartoony and creative. But I feel like the amount of hits it takes to beat enemies is absurdly high. They're basically walking tanks, even more so for the bosses. It was unnecessarily annoying. But the game in general was pretty good. Next to RPGs, my favorite genre of game is 3D platformers. Collectathons specifically. Collectathons are great when done right. When I was a kid, I loved Mario Sunshine. That's where this game takes most inspiration from. Ahead in Time, advertised as a cute as heck collectathon, does not disappoint. It really is cute as heck. It's one of the best 3D platformers that have come out in the last couple years. Second best hat game of 2017. Guess what number 1 was? There are a variety of wacky characters, you build and collect all kinds of hats, and the platforming is just fun. 9 out of 10. This game is just super cute and cartoony and fun. If I had to have one complaint, it's that it's too short. But it's an indie game made by a company whose first game was this, so you can't really complain that much there. Although, there's DLC for the game out now, and it seems that there'll be more eventually. Plus, the Steam Workshop is a thing with fan-made levels, so length really isn't that much of an issue. Earlier on, I said that this year I've played more games that were hailed as no less than incredible than I have any other year. This is another such game. Chrono Trigger. I have heard so many times in the past that I need to play this game. They were right. Created by what is now known as the Dream Team. These guys, this legendary team. I'm not gonna try to attempt to pronounce their names because I hate butchering names. This legendary Dream Team came together to make this masterpiece. I streamed this on Twitch, and it was an absolute blast. The battle system itself, the seamless battle-to-field transition, the character design, the characters themselves, the world, the music, the time travel mechanics, the story, I love it all. This game truly is the masterpiece that everyone claims it is. 9.4 out of 10. I love Chrono Trigger, but I don't think I could possibly rate it higher than any of the Xenoblade games on this list. If I played this in any other year, this probably would have been rated number 1 on games I played for the first time that year. For this one, I'm strictly talking about the single player. The multiplayer is a beast of its own and demands to be treated as such. Splatoon 2. I very much enjoyed the single player of the first Splatoon. This one improves on that experience by letting you use different kinds of weapons in the campaign. But it also takes a step backwards by having certain levels that force you to use specific weapons. I get wanting to encourage different playstyles, but some people don't like certain weapons. Example, me and chargers. I just don't like them. But the mechanics themselves are pretty unique and different, which I love. Conveyor ink rails, for example, great mechanic. Love them. The single player is pretty grindy though if you want everything, which I often do. I'm a completionist. The bosses are also pretty good too. The single player alone gets 8 out of 10. I'm choosing not to rate the multiplayer because you can't really beat it, which is what this list is about. It's about beating games, not just playing them. Jumping back to JRPGs again, because I played quite a few this year, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna the Golden Country. Isn't that a mouthful of a name? Everything that Xenoblade 2 does, Torna the Golden Country does better. Torna is a prequel to Xenoblade 2, so it gives you an insight to what led to the events of Xenoblade 2, which is super cool. Story aside, it improves battle mechanics to be even smoother. It adds crafting at specific locations, and you can switch characters on the fly. Also, no freaking gacha game to get characters. Yes! But nothing in life is perfect. I was hoping that more locations would make a return from the main game so that we could see what they were like back then, since this is a prequel. And it's much shorter than the main game. That part makes sense though, seeing as this was made as DLC. 9.8 out of 10. For me, it's hard to surpass Xenoblade 2, but Torna absolutely did it. If Monolith can somehow top both of those, both Xenoblade 2 and Torna the Golden Country, I will be impressed. After Mega Man 3 shot down my hopes, my expectations for a good Mega Man game were severely lowered. I'm glad to say that Capcom brought them back in a big way with Mega Man 4. First off, new villain, yay! Dr. Cossack is the big bad this time around, and he has created 8 new Robot Masters for Mega Man to fight. Though this time, they actually have pretty interesting designs, unlike in Mega Man 3. The stages are better made, and the bosses give neat weapons. Not only all that, but there's a new feature in this game. You can charge your blaster. It makes taking down the bigger enemies much quicker, and honestly, it's something that probably should have been in the last game. 9 out of 10. This game does some things different from the past games, adds new stuff, and remedies the mistake of Doc Robot by removing him outright. I'm glad that this game was able to surpass Mega Man 2 in terms of being a good game, because Lord knows that Mega Man 3 didn't. This one's going to be a tough one to get through. I've loved Spider-Man for many years. He's my favorite superhero, ever. I wasn't able to play the PlayStation 4 exclusive game that came out this year, but I feel like I was able to play the next best thing. Web of Shadows. This game has you play as Spider-Man at the peak of his hero career. You start the game by getting Spider-Man's black suit again, and have to fight Venom with it. From there, you fight a variety of classic Spider-Man foes and friends as you solve the Venom problem that the city has fallen victim to. Along the way, the game has many side missions which are completely missable. I hate that. Especially because a lot of the missions are super grindy, and you have to do city events to complete them, which spawn randomly on the map. The controls themselves are pretty good. I played the Wii version, which meant motion controls. Normally, I dislike motion controls as a whole, but it felt satisfying to swing around the city by flicking the Wii remote. I had a good time playing it on my channel blind. 8 out of 10. This game felt fun to play, but the story didn't go super deep or anything. It was mostly normal Spider-Man fare, and as I mentioned, the city events, they're grindy. It's hard to talk about Spider-Man without talking about his co-creator, Stan Lee, who unfortunately passed away this year. Thank you, Stan Lee, for creating such a vibrant and wonderful character among the many others you created in your life. Thank you. Vampires are a classic Halloween monster. The most famous of all, Count Dracula. Simon Belmont storms his castle to stop the legendary vampire himself in Castlevania. I played Castlevania for Halloween on my channel to celebrate the holiday season. It's a hard game. That's probably to be expected, though, since it's a Konami game on the NES, which are notoriously difficult games to play. While it was hard, though, I had fun playing through it, fighting all these classic movie monsters and such. 7.5 out of 10. This game is hard. It's not like I don't like difficulty, but some of the jumps or enemies felt really cheap or unfair at times. And the game is only extended through doing loops of the game that are harder, which is just artificial length. At E3 2017, a crossover game between Mario and the Rabbids was announced. Everyone was shocked and confused that this was becoming a thing. This game, that nobody would have ever thought would be a thing, is actually a really good tactical game. Mario has this Mega Man-esque blaster, shooting these rabbit creature amalgamations, jumping on them, doing other Mario stuff. The unique rabbits in this game have their own special powers, which are pretty good, and they team up with Mario to run around the Mushroom Kingdom, returning the world to semi-normalcy. Along the way, they get cool power-ups, neat companions, and sweet, sweet weapons. There's also semi-clever puzzles that you can solve to get more weapons, and some fairly difficult challenge battles to get extra cash to get more weapons and abilities. 8.5 out of 10 is a pretty good score for a game that nobody would have thought would be a good idea a while back. This game can be pretty challenging, and the enemies have interesting battle capabilities. I like this game quite a bit, and I'm really glad they came up with this idea for this really wacky, silly, fun game. Pokemon. Say that word and everyone thinks of the original 151. It was the first generation. It got a remake, sure, but that was years ago. It deserved another tune-up. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. It came out this year, and it was a remake of Yellow more so than Red and Blue. They were pretty accurate to the original game, but they added a lot of stuff that was not present in the originals or Fire Red and Leaf Green, the other remakes. Let's Go added the fairy type that's been in the game since X and Y, they added in the Alolan forms that were introduced in Sun and Moon, and they changed quite a few story bits, which I have mixed opinions about. Another thing that this game does is that it has the catching mechanics of Pokemon Go, the mobile game, where you just throw a Pokeball to catch the Pokemon. I love all the aesthetic stuff that you can do in this game. The customization of your Pikachu or Eevee, the trainer customization, letting your other Pokemon follow you, getting to pet your partner Pokemon, I just love it. 9 out of 10. The story things that they change, while it adds surprise when they show up, I don't feel like they needed to be changed. Not only that, but I am getting really tired of the nice rival who is your bestest best friend. Something else to note, this isn't a full Pokemon game. This is sort of a semi-spin-off, which is a little odd, since you're running around in Kanto again. Wild Pokemon battles aren't a thing, and both held items and special abilities are missing. These things just left me wanting more. Wanting a full and proper Pokemon game. One is coming, just not until late next year. But I did love all the other stuff I mentioned earlier. It's a nice way to tide people over until the Pokemon game in 2019. And that's all the games I beat for the first time in 2018. There would have been one more if one certain game wasn't being stubborn in the last area of the game. But that's all of them. 2018 has been filled with some good games, a couple not so good games, and some of the most incredible games I've ever played. This project took a little while to put together, but I'm glad I did it nonetheless. I've never done anything quite like this before, but it's good to jump into new kinds of projects like this every once in a while. If I do decide to do another one of these kinds of videos though, I will most likely have to do a new kind of format. Maybe do multiple shorter ones throughout the year, because this video was much longer than I originally intended. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in the new year. Happy holidays!